Thank you for joining us today. We are really, really excited to have Lori with us. I have known Lori for a long time. I realized today that I've known Lori since before Lauren was born, and she's 12 now. So, anyway, we are American photographic artists. We are based in, this is our DC, I was about to say bureau from my journalism days, but this is our DC chapter. We are part of the APA national chapter, which has chapters all over the United States. And if you're not a member, we really, really have a lot of great things going on with APA and a lot of great things coming up. But first, I want to talk about some things that we have coming up in the DC area. Let's see. Let me get that first. Okay, yes. We've got our Level Up coming up with our APA DC Women's Committee, which is really, really exciting. They have worked really hard. Some of our board members are on today. Laura Chase is one of the ones that's helped put this together, and some of our other women board members. It's going to be why and how to register as a woman-owned business. And it's happening March 29th at 12 p.m. There's going to be a lot of information. If you are not registered with the SBA or the federal government as a woman-owned business, is something you will definitely want to learn about and consider doing. The tickets are on sale for that right now. We just sent out an email yesterday about it, and you'll see in our social media. But if you go to our website, apadc.com, you can sign up. Let's see, we've got another event that's going to be coming up, and this is for members only, and this is pretty incredible. Katie Dance, one of our board members, has set up a field trip to Glenstone. If you have not been there, it is absolutely incredible. The space is going to be limited. There's only going to be 30 spots available. We're going to be putting that out in the next day or two for registration. So if you are not a member, this is well worth joining to just be able to see, because it's very, very hard to get tickets to go to Glenstone, and it's completely free, but it is one of the largest personal collections of art in the world that's right here in the DC area. Okay, so we're going to have 30 minutes with Lori today, presented by presented by APA. Let me get this. And Lori's going to tell a little bit more about herself, but she earned a journalism degree from Boston University College, and she worked as a photographer assistant and freelance photographer until transitioning to photo editing full-time. I know she still photographs though all the time. She joined National Geographic Kids Book in 2015 as a photo editor, and now leads a team of in-house and freelance photo editors, photo researchers, producing about 50 books a year. As photography manager, Lori has helped develop and now works to maintain National Kids visual aesthetic, which unifies the brand of the marketplace and helps sets it apart from the competition. But I will also say that she doesn't put in here that she is amazing. And I have worked with her personally on some projects, and her vision and the way that she manages is incredible. And she's also one of the kindest people I know. So I think there's a lot being said for that, and to be said for that. So so we're just going to go ahead and let Lori get started. We've got about 35 people on with us. So this is what we're going to do. Lori is going to present. You can put questions in the chat, and which we will answer at the end of the presentation. So but as we go along, go ahead and put them. I'll be able to see them, and then we'll be able to talk through them once she's done. So Lori, take it away.
Okay, great. I'm just going to turn off my camera here so you don't have to look at the side of my head. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully that volume is good. Thanks for coming to this talk today. I'm just going to jump right in since I know we've only got 30 minutes. So yep, that's me. Let's click over to the next slide. No, not seeing, oh, there we go. Okay, great. So as Jen said, I got my journalism degree from Boston University. And after school, I became a photographer's assistant. And I did that for about 5 years. And the first 9 months of that 5 years was one giant road trip across the United States. And it was for a book that the photographer that I was working for was doing. And these are some of the photos that I made during that trip. It was pretty formative experience for me, especially those first 9 months, because we would shoot sunrise and sunset every single day. And we did that for about 9 months straight. And the only days that we didn't shoot were really, really crappy rainy days. And then we would still shoot during the day, but we didn't necessarily do sunrise and sunset because that didn't really happen. And then I spent the next 3 months after that just editing film. And that was when we shot on film. Everything was 35 millimeter chrome. And it was a lot of work to edit. Okay, you can click to the next slide. So I did that for about 5 years. It was a lot of lifting, a lot of traveling, a lot of editing and managing. But in the process, I learned all about book publishing and pre-press because the photographer was he had a self-publishing business. And so he would publish his own books. And he taught me basically how to put together a book, all the things you need. And I gained this incredible knowledge of book publishing that I didn't even know that it existed when I left journalism school. I was all about newspapers. So after 5 years of that, I moved to New York City to become a photo editor with Barnes & Noble Publishing. And that was an incredible time. If you haven't lived in New York City, you should do it. After a few years, I gained a lot more confidence in photo editing and more book publishing experience. And I knew I wanted to be at National Geographic, and I started applying for jobs. It took me about 3 years. I applied to dozens and dozens of jobs at National Geographic. I got a lot of rejection, but I just kept applying anything that was remotely related to photography. And then one day I saw they were looking for a photo editor for children's books. And I thought, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I applied and I got the job. So that brings us to the next slide. So I've been at National Geographic since 2005, and I am going to give you a little bit about Kids Books 101. So I wanted to just start with our mission statement. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with National Geographic, but you might not be all that familiar with National Geographic Kids or the kids books that we publish. So here's a little intro into my world. So our mission statement is National Geographic Kids Books inspires a new generation of explorers, igniting curiosity about the world through facts, photos, and fun. And in the subsequent slides, you will see this: facts, photos, and fun. This is our mantra at Nat Geo Kids Books. So here are some quick facts. We are the leading publisher of children's nonfiction. We sold more than 8 million books last year. We are a category leader in atlases and reference. We have the #1 selling kids almanac. And we produce titles ranging from board books for babies to memoirs for teens and absolutely everything in between. Science, nature, STEM, math, animals, you name it. So here are some statistics, some numbers for you. We do publish about 50 books a year. We use an average of 10,000 images every year. Up to about 70% of a book's editorial development budget is dedicated to photos. I have 3 staff photo editors, and at any given time, I have anywhere from 1 to 6 freelance photo editors working on projects. About 75% of our content is animal related, and the rest is science, nature, and culture, and anything else that doesn't fall into that category. We have a pretty broad spectrum on our publishing list. So, okay, now that you know what we publish, let's get into why we're all here. The photos. Obviously, photography is an incredibly important element of Nat Geo Kids' visual identity. With everything we do, we let the photos drive the design. Photos are the dominant feature on every spread, along with bold typography and really bright colors. We use a strong 1, 2, 3 hierarchy on the page. Our pages have multiple entry points, which allow young readers a lot of different ways to get at the information. We employ silhouettes and bump outs, like you see here on that links with the paw that bumps out of the frame. It helps to create more dynamic image and draws your eye across the page. We have a really distinctive style that helps to cement our visual identity. Here's a list of things that we like to look for in our imagery. Our pictures are really kid friendly and have a lot of eye contact, which our readers respond to. They feel like they're looking right into the eyes of that animal. And we like to curate images that have emotional appeal, a picture that when you look at it, you laugh immediately, like those orangutans, or you smile, or you look at it and you go, oh, wow. Something that really elicits an emotional reaction. We love bright saturated colors and images that have action and sharp details and clear composition. Things we don't necessarily like, we don't like showing things that are vague or scary or boring. We never show death, menacing behavior, sharp weapons, or really sad subject matter. And we work hard to avoid dull, muted colors. We use them when necessary. One thing we really don't like is we do not like seeing animals behind bars or in cages or with shackles. That is just something that we can't tolerate. And one other note, sort of a technical thing, we don't generally use a lot of pictures with shallow depth of field unless something really calls for it. We like to have clear, sharp details because kids pick apart everything and they want to be able to identify scales and eyelashes and all of those features. So that sort of wraps up our photography style. So 80% of the photography in our books is curated from existing photography. It's stock photography. We use our own National Geographic images in addition to licensed images from stock vendors and individual photographers. We're always looking for new sources of photography. One of the things that we're always looking for are these animal rescue stories. These stories have a compelling beginning, an emotional middle, and a happy and safe ending. These are stories about individual animals that overcome a physical or emotional hardship. These stories resonate with our young audience. They feel connected to these animals, and they almost put themselves in the shoes of that animal, which is why they have to have a happy ending, a clear, solid resolution for that animal. Now, these are the kinds of stories that we license from photographers. It's not the sort of thing that we would assign, because these stories happen over multiple years. And so we're looking for stories that are complete. So if you have any that that might fit the bill, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Okay. Since 80% of our books are stock, that leaves about 20% that are original photography. That original photography is done by staff or by work for hire photographers. So we generally use original photography when stock doesn't exist, when we need to photograph specific people or specific animals, or when we're doing instructional books, like the science experiments or hands-on activities. We do have a photo studio at headquarters, and we have 2 staff photographers that work in the studio. They also go on location, but because they have to service the entire organization, their calendars are really full. So generally, if we need them for a location shoot, it's for a portion of a book, not for an entire book, because we don't want to monopolize all of their time. So we generally use our in-house photographers for studio stuff, like the examples you can see here on the top. So we do hire for original STEM photography, which, like I was saying, this would be step-by-step science experiments, hands-on activities. This terrific series was shot by your very own Matt Ricola, and they are, oh my gosh, they're a ton of work. They are so difficult. There's so much that goes into them. They're so involved, with lots of kids and lots of supplies and lots of testing. But this is a category that we absolutely have to hire for, because it just doesn't exist in stock. So this is a really cute preschool series that I shot for us. That was also used for a kids magazine, which was really fun. And this is an example of, animal photography of individual animals. This kind of stuff just doesn't exist. And this was a little preschool series about working dogs, all sorts of dogs with jobs. And then sometimes we combine original STEM photography and animal photography into a series like this, which was Dog Science Unleashed and Cat Science Unleashed. And this is a collision of 2 of the hardest things on the planet to photograph, which would be kids and animals together in ridiculously difficult photo shoot situations. But I think that they came out wonderfully, and they're a lot of fun. Again, a lot of work, but great examples of the kinds of things that we hire for. So when we talk about photo shoot production, when we're using stock photos, a book takes about a year to produce, but when we use original photography for an entire book, it can take up to twice that long. So we're talking 2 years from start to finish. It's these productions are enormous, with dozens of kids and months of planning and testing experiments and rewriting manuscripts, because experiments don't work. And we have to schedule around school vacations and weather conditions, depending on what the manuscript calls for. They're exhausting. They're a ton of work, but so rewarding. And what I've found, because we use real children for these shoots, not models. We do use models sometimes if we have to, but because we're generally using real kids, they are learning as we go, as we photograph each activity or experiment. And just being around kids who get excited about learning it's so energizing. And it really makes these shoots that much more rewarding. They're a blast. And here's a little crappy video that I took from one of our science experiments shoots. Hopefully there's some audio. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not. You get the picture.
That didn't work out.
All right. Well, sorry about that.
You mean to play it again? I don't know why it was. Let me try this. Can you hear it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready? Matt, are you ready?
Yep, ready. 3,
2, 1, go.
That didn't work out.
Oh, it's just silly. It's really fun to see the kids enjoy and learn. It's a blast. So this is a marketing reel I put together for the cat science book. And my video skills are super basic. But since the marketing department didn't have anyone who could do this for them, they were happy to get whatever they got. This is, I think, pretty funny. There we go. And this is a little marketing reel that I put together for the Doggy Defenders series. We have started incorporating time to shoot video in our work schedules when we do shoot books now, which, you know, we can put together clips like this for social and web and marketing. And again, the marketing teams really appreciate this. And it's an added skill. It's an added bonus. It's, you know, video is sort of everything at this moment. So it's great to be able to have that in your arsenal. And those are just, you know, little tiny little spots, but they loved having them. And, you know, they get a lot of views, they get eyeballs. And like I said, learning a new skill and incorporating it into your portfolio is always a good idea. And that's it. So, you know, let's have some questions.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We have got a few questions. From Krista, she asked, do you work with photo retouchers? And if so, are they full-time staff? Or are they freelance only?
Okay, so no, we don't work with photo retouchers. We work with pre-press, which is when we're getting our book files ready to ship out to the printer. The pre-press house converts all of our files from RGB to CMYK, and we work hand in hand with them to color correct. So we do that work with the pre-press folks, but that is not something we have on staff.
Alexander wants to know, where is the very place you look for original work outside of stock agencies?
Right, so that's a great question. So I look to places like APA. I look to professional organizations. I look to recommendations from folks in the industry. I do portfolio reviews for a number of different organizations, and we're always got our eyes open. We look at Instagram. We're sort of always got our eye open, and we're always looking.
And John asks, how do you manage the archive of stock that you pull from when not shooting original photos?
How do I manage the archive of stock?
I guess you have a digital archive management system, right?
Oh, well, we do. But so when we're doing photo research as photo editing tasks, so we're downloading pictures and organizing them by project, and that's how we organize things. I'm not sure. Are you talking about like the final high-res files?
I'll let John ask.
Yeah.
Hey, Lori.
Hi.
So I'm curious about kind of considering the quantity of images you use, that you have an archive that you're pulling from. So when you're making that next cat book, you're not going to go shoot all new cat images.
Oh, right,
so like,
right. Okay.
Kind of where is the 10,000 cat images you're pulling from or looking through to even start that process?
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't understand your question at first. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, we do have an archive where we keep our NGP owned photography and images. We keyword our images and load them into this database. Then when we need a cat, we can search cat and see what we've got. And then we can reuse those images that we own. Absolutely.
We have a question from Judy Davis. She said, Lori, thank you for sharing your experience. We love your Nat Geo books when my daughter was younger, such beautiful content and informative. What do you feel helped your transition from photo assistant to photo editor? As in, when you got the job for photo editor, was it on your resume? What was on your resume that caught their attention? Can you make any suggestions for a photographer going into photo editing? And then she said, Nat Geo went through a transition years ago, and I don't think many editors, writers are on staff any longer.
Okay, well, there's a lot of questions in there.
There is.
I'm going to start. I think I'll
Judy for clarification.
So I think the first question was, how did I transition from being an assistant to a photo editor? So I think that was a very natural transition for me because I was editing the photographer's work on a daily basis. And so I already had a really good foundation of what a good picture was, what it, the technical aspects of what a good picture should be just from journalism school, and all of my photo classes. And what I learned while working as an assistant, because you're there at every moment, and I like to ask questions and I like to talk, and so we would talk about, like, while we were shooting, why the picture we were shooting was going to be good, right? Like, oh, this light here, or this composition here, or this diagonal here, or this color, or this movement. And just through the process of shooting and editing for 5 years, I just became a photo editor. I mean, I was just doing it every day, so that when I applied for jobs in New York City, I knew I was looking for a photo related job. I was applying for all different kinds of jobs: photographer, researcher, editor. And I think I was able to show examples of those skills on my resume from the previous 5 years. So that when I got into Barnes and Noble Publishing, who, for those of you who don't know, they have their own publishing house and publish books directly into their stores. It appealed to the hiring manager there, the director of photography, who was also a photographer in his early years and could relate. It was just all very relatable experience. So then, having knowledge of how the book publishing world works was just a bonus on that resume. Hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, Lori. That was great. Thank you. Thanks for.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there were other questions in there. I'm not.
Well, and then one other thing, because Nat Geo is such a large organization, but what's the percentage of, say, editors on staff to freelancers? Do you know?
I can't answer that. I can only answer that for my department. And like I said, I have 3. My photo department is 4, including me. And then, I have a stable of freelancers that I use, that can expand up to 6-8 people when I need it. But I can't answer that for any other department other than the kids books department.
Gotcha. That's great. I was just in the museum this weekend, the photography exhibit on.
I know, me too. Oh, it was so good, wasn't it?
We passed each other.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. If you guys haven't been, the museum finally reopened and the exhibit is gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
That's great. Does anyone have any final questions for Lori? We have time to take just maybe a few more. If you want to put them in the chat, go ahead. Or there's a new message. Let's see, we got 2. Oh, you know what? There was one from Laura Chase. I wanted to know was, do you take pitches? Very important question.
Yeah, that is an important question. In general, we like to say we don't take unsolicited manuscripts, unsolicited book ideas. But I don't like to say no to anything in regards to that. So if you have a well-developed idea, I'm happy to look at it, but please don't come to me with some amorphous, shapeless thing that you're like, I want to do a book on wildlife. Like, that's not helpful. What you need to do is do your research, go to the bookstore, go to the library, look at the competition, look at what's out there, and see what does well, what isn't in the marketplace, and think about why it might not be there. And develop your pitch and then come to me.
Great answer, Lori. Thank you.
Sure.
Daniel Martinez has a question for you. And I'm going to let him ask it because I'm not quite sure what he's asking.
Okay. Okay.
So Daniel, if you could talk for a minute and ask this question to Lori, great.
Thank you very much for your time and for this event. I was just curious as to, from your first gig as a photo editor when you were assisting the photographer, is there something from that experience that you still apply now as a current photo editor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I never say no. And I just feel like being open to the experience, being open to other people's ideas is a great thing. Here's an example, like when you're out there photographing and someone walks up to you and says, "Oh, that's really cool. Have you tried this? Have you tried shooting it this way? Did you look at it from this angle?" I know that that's a super frustrating thing for a lot of people, because you're like, "Hey, dude, I'm the professional. I know what I'm doing here. I don't need your advice." What I've learned is we always need other people's advice. We always need those sounding boards, and we always need people to remind us that we don't know it all. And that is something that, you know, I learned while being an assistant, because when I was an assistant, I didn't know jack. I didn't know anything. And I was constantly absorbing. And I think you have to approach whatever work you're doing with that open mindset of, I'm going to learn something here. It may come from an unexpected source, like an 8-year-old kid. But I'm going to learn something here. And I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for.
Well,
but
thank you very much.
That's how I approach it. I feel like I can always learn from other people.
I think that's what makes you such a great photo editor and photographer, Lori, is the fact that you never stop learning. So,
well, that's very sweet. Thank you.
Caroline has a question. She wants to know, are you open to hearing from freelance photo editors for future projects?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't promise I'll have work for you, but I love having you in my little folder. I have a little folder that says freelancers, and yeah, send me a little PDF of the types of work you've done, and if you've worked on nonfiction, that is super important. If you've worked on nonfiction books for kids, if you've worked on nonfiction books for adults, you can see that the kids' aesthetic is very different. So if you've had experience in photo editing for kids, I would love to hear from you.
I have a question for you. I was really curious about, especially with your kids, where you're using the kids and the animals. Are you using professional kids models and professional, trained animals, or are you just like putting out a thing to like staff going, "Hey, who's got a use this?"
So Matt is like laughing and shaking his head, because like,
no and no.
Is it all
we literally send an email blast to the entire company saying, "Hey, we're working on a new book. Do you have kids between the ages of 8 and 12? Hey, we're working on a new project. Do you have kids between the ages of 13 and 16? Yeah, we don't hire models unless we have to. In the few instances where we do hire models, they come to the shoot thinking they're going to be a model and leave the shoot as a little scientist."
I love that. Well, if you ever need a kid, I've got one.
We're always looking for
it's a little scientists.
We're always looking for diverse kids. We're always looking for kids of different abilities. Yeah, that is something, even if it's just a one-off thing and not an entire book.
And the animals, where do you find them? Are these just
so
like people's animals? Or?
Well, for the dog books that I shot, the author and I did research on folks that would that had an interesting story, and working dogs that had an interesting story, an interesting handler. And those dogs, because they have jobs, they are trained in those jobs. That doesn't necessarily mean they're trained in obedience, but they're trained in those specific jobs. For the science books with animals, again, email blast out to the staff. Hey, do you have a really cute dog that can be obedient? Do you have a cat that acts like a dog? Let me know. So that literally just, word of mouth, sending an email. And sometimes I post on Instagram to the local community saying, hey, I'm doing this thing. I need this. Do you know anybody? So yeah, definitely not trained animals.
That's awesome.
Can I just say something about that? Was funny shooting it was realizing that, especially with the dogs, that we were looking for families with kids and a dog. Most of the time, the dog responded to the parent, not the kids.
Yeah.
So when you took the parent out of the equation, the dog was kind of wild.
Yeah. that was made the shoot that much more difficult. But another learning experience.
We've got a couple of things. Sheila just wanted to let you know that Jane, your predecessor,
Oh my gosh, yeah,
was a dear friend of hers.
oh, well, that's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And Daniel has another question. He wanted to know, how does being a photo editor influence your photography style?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Because I also shoot a little bit of stock photography, because now that I'm in this world and have been in this world where we use a lot of stock photography, I recognize where the giant gaping holes are in stock photography. And that definitely influences things that I shoot. And I try to fill those holes.
That's awesome. Let's see. I know we need to probably wrap up soon, but Lori, do you have any final things you want to say as we wrap up?
No,
any encouraging words for all the photographers and photo editors out there listening today?
Well, I guess there's a couple takeaways, right? I think that being having a goal and like, if you want to work for a particular publication, like when I was young and an assistant, I sort of had this idea in my head of like, I would love to work for National Geographic. Who doesn't say that, right? But then when I actually realized that it could happen, like they hire people every once in a while, right? So once I had that on my radar, I just sort of like put a pin in it and then just kept going back to it and back to it. Like I said, I literally applied to dozens of jobs for years, right? Before I came across the one that actually fit me really well. So that sort of like dedication and persistence, I think, is really important. And then I think also that quality of being open to learning, as I said before, I just think that we get so like tunnel vision about what we do. I do this, I am this. I feel like folks need to just remind themselves that it's okay to widen that perspective a little bit. And yes, you do this, and yes, you are this, but you can also do and be these other things. And you just have to be open to learning and open to new opportunities. And that I think that's a life lesson, not just a job lesson. So yeah, and I really appreciate your time. I know everyone is really busy. It's a busy time of year. And I'm so thrilled that this got such a great turnout. And I appreciate your ears and your eyeballs, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, and just to wrap up with a couple of things before we go, Lori, I want to thank you for today. It's been a phenomenal presentation, and to everybody on, if you joined us, in the middle of it or anything, or you want to go back and revisit some of the things that Lori had to say, we will have this recording up. Usually in about a month, we'll have it up, and it'll be on our YouTube page. A couple of things that I just want to say before we wrap up. Number one, Lori says thank you. We say thank you. And I want to tell you real quick about a new member benefit that we've got for our APA DC members. Apparent, who is a phenomenal camera rental company, and I've rented through them myself, is giving our members 10% off through the end of the year, and probably longer if we can convince them. I've already taken advantage of it. It's a great new member benefit. Second, if you have any questions or ideas, email me directly. We are always looking for new ideas, new speakers, new topics. We love to hear from our members and our future members. So make sure you reach out to me. That's the phone number. We now have a APA phone number that you can call or text. So write it down. I'm happy to answer you back. Also, if you join today, you get 20% off for any of our level of our yearly membership. Use the code WelcomeGen. I serve as the director from Matt. He passed the baton to me back in July, and we are really, really doing a great job this year of bringing in new resources, more education, more discounts. Our board is incredible this year. I cannot say how hard they are working to bring you guys this terrific programming. It is all them. I give all the kudos to them. And finally, I just want to say thank you for your time today, for being on here. We really appreciate Lori being on here today. And I just want to say, keep making great images and doing great things. So, and if you've got any questions about anything in terms of being a photographer, photo editor, that's what APA is here for, is to answer those and to help you. So thanks again, Lori.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, and thank you everybody on the call.